You're a Democrat. You ran as a Democrat, were elected as a Democrat. And you also, in this last election, voted for Kamala Harris. Is that right?
Correct.
You've also worked closely with General Bondi.
Correct.
In your judgment, describe, same question I asked Mr. Cox, how would you describe her leadership style and how would you describe her integrity?
Yeah. Well, Senator Cruz, in full disclosure, we weren't just classmates, you and I. We lived in the same dorm first year before either of us had any gray hair.
And burn those pictures.
Fair enough. Mr. Cox is right. She has a very hands-on style. Everyone in the office knows her. She was not isolated from the rest of us. She walked the hallways. She was friends with everyone. She brought her dog to work sometimes, even though it probably violated code. And it was a big dog, the St. Bernard. And she was just she's a very likable
didn't have
person.
A barrel of whiskey under its neck, did it?
Only in Bugs Bunny cartoons. She's a very likable person. And I think you'll find that from everyone who knows her in Tallahassee and throughout Florida. It's hard not to like. You can disagree with her politically, and she and I have our political differences. But as far as a boss, she never tried to big time anyone. She's a person like everyone else. She expects the best from people, but she has a real human touch about her.
Now, you also worked with her very closely, in particular, in going after pill mills. Can you describe what you and she were able to accomplish together on that?
We were able to shut down the pill mills. Florida was the pill supplier for the rest of the country. 98 of the top 100 doctors who dispensed pills were in Florida. It was a national embarrassment. The OxyContin Express from Appalachia down to Florida. People would come down, buy their drugs, use, abuse, and then go home and sell them for a profit. We ended that. She appointed me to be the lead person, but we could not have done it without her. She was the person who got the legislature to change the laws. We couldn't have done any of that without that. She was the one who convinced them to pass the prescription drug monitoring program. That was indispensable. So it was her leadership that really led to a dramatic decrease in the number of deaths from opioid overdoses.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for testifying today. Professor McCord, I'd like to ask you about January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Can you succinctly define domestic terrorism?
Domestic terrorism under the United States Code is a crime, an act of violence that is a crime under federal or state law that is done with the attempt to influence a policy of government through intimidation or coercion.
Based on that definition, were some of the acts committed on January 6th acts of domestic terrorism?
Certainly the acts of violence that violate the criminal code do seem to have appeared for many of the people based on their own statements. Many of the defendants in cases that are being prosecuted, they seem to have been done to influence the policy of the government, and specifically to not certify the electoral college ballots on January 6th.
Yesterday, Ms. Bondi refused to disavow President Trump calling the insurrectionists hostages and patriots. What effect would President Trump's pardoning of these criminals have on our country? What is the message if that were to happen?
Senator, I believe it would have an enormous impact on the criminal legal system, and I would say also on our judiciary. In fact, I published a piece about that this morning in The Atlantic. We have our federal judges here appointed by Republicans, Democrats, and President Trump himself, who uniformly have condemned the crimes of those who have been convicted due to their attack on the U.S. Capitol. That anything close to a blanket pardon, which is what has been suggested but not promised by Donald Trump, without individual consideration of cases, would severely undermine these federal judges and undermine the criminal legal system.
We know, and this has come up with one of my colleagues, we know from the disastrous Supreme Court immunity decision that President Trump pretty much has a free pass to do what he wants. An unfettered president is even more dangerous if the Department of Justice is not independent. So based on your extensive experience at the DOJ, are there warning signs that the DOJ has lost its independence?
Senator, I think as we've seen sometimes in the past, that when there are concerns among the career prosecutors and law enforcement officials at the department who have responsibility over investigations and cases, when they have felt pressured, many of them have actually resigned. We saw that during the first Trump administration with respect to some of the prosecutions involving Michael Flynn and Roger Stone.
So I take it that people resigning is one indication that all is not well, that independence is maybe not what's in practice. I'm just wondering, if we were to ask the Attorney General if the president ordered you or suggested or hinted that you go after his perceived political enemies, would the Attorney General be able to cite attorney-client privilege and not respond to us?
I don't want to give a legal opinion on that, Senator. I do think that that is the type of pressure that we are looking to an attorney general to stand up to from the White House. And I certainly want to take Ms. Bondi at her word when she, under oath yesterday, said she would exercise independence.
Well, the thing is, what's deeply concerning about Ms. Bondi is that she is very loyal to President-elect Trump, and he demands 100% loyalty of all of his people. So yesterday, Ms. Bondi could not say that President Biden had won the election in 2020. That is a basic fact. And I think that it was her loyalty to President-elect Trump that basically made it hard for her, impossible for her to say that President Biden had won the election. So
okay, let me say something really quick, and we're going to go back. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I think it's important that we see this hearing, and this is real time right now, so you can watch it right here real time. Look, she made a point saying that President Trump wants people that's going to be loyal to him. That's what the president does. Do you think Joe Biden wanted people that was not going to be loyal to him? Do you think Obama wanted people working for him that's not going to be loyal to him? That's what it's about. They know it's about that. This is stupid. She's completely off her rocker. Why would President Trump want someone to work for him that's not going to be loyal to him? I mean, really? Every single president wants people to be loyal to them to do the job, to do his agenda. Okay, let's go back to it.
So if you have any further suggestions aside from people actually resigning to indicate that the kind of independence we are looking for is not being followed, I would welcome that.
Yes, and Senator
you,
Rono,
Mr.
your
Chair.
time is up. Thank
Please
you.
respond.
Thank you. Let's see. Mr. Cox, I'd like to start with you. I heard your comments with regards to both Pam Bondi, who we are here for today, and you heap praise on Attorney General Moody, who you work for as well. I'd like to say a public congratulations to her being named Senate designee and be the next senator from Florida. Oh, look, I get to deliver the news to you. So DeSantis just came out and said she will be joining us. I am thrilled. I mean, as a mom of school-age kids, to have another woman sitting right here next to me, fighting for the people that we serve, with what I understand is her brilliant intellect, her ability and her passion for the people of Florida, which I know she will bring to the United States Senate. I cannot wait to call her a colleague. So on behalf of me and all of us, welcome to Attorney General Moody's new Senate designee. We look forward to her taking the ranks.
Might I respond or comment for just briefly?
Sure, absolutely.
Senators, you're going to love Ashley Moody. She is a wonderful person to work with. She's brilliant. That is Wow.
Well,
Thank
right?
you for telling me.
I'm so excited I got to tell you.
Best thing about it is I can say I learned that in the United States
In the
Senate.
United States Senate, that's right. And hopefully she will be up here just in the next few days after we confirm Senator Rubio, who's going to do an exceptional job as Secretary of State. So congratulations to Ashley, and cannot wait to serve with her.
Thank you.
So now let's talk about another amazing woman, Pam Bondi. I have heard you over and over again when you respond to questions talking about her. I think you said she is fair, kind, and firm. You have talked about the fact that she is transparent and impartial. I would like for you one more time to say to the American people, based on your previous work with Pam Bondi, can you explain how she'll continue to operate, you believe, in that manner, in a fair and transparent manner as she takes the helm of the Justice Department?
Because she believes in everything you just questioned me about, and she practiced it in Florida. You know, whether you agreed with her or not, Pam Bondi, like I said, is a person who really likes people. I think we should welcome that into government. I think that sometimes we lose sight of prosecutors. I'm going to speak to myself. We can lose sight of the fact of the ranking member mentioned, the immense power that we have, and we get caught up in it. Mm-hmm. Pam Bondi doesn't get caught up in those kinds of trappings.
I love it.
Yeah, she loves people, and she, at her heart, again, is a prosecutor. As Mr. Ehrenberg had mentioned, nobody has anything to fear from Pam Bondi. She is going to be a breath of fresh air if y'all send her there.
Absolutely. And I think we need to restore those very things, fairness and transparency, to the department. And I look forward to her taking the helm. She's going to do that for the American people. And it's an exciting new day. So thank you so very much.
Can you imagine how the Democrats
absolutely.
feel
we
about hearing
thrilled.
this positive stuff
so,
about
Mr.
Pam
Ehrenberg,
Bondi?
I learned, obviously, that we need to talk with you offline about getting those the stories on cruise, right? And also that she has a Saint Bernard. I have a Newfoundland. So who knew that we both had love for the large dogs? And Sheriff Gainey, I know that you've had an opportunity to work with Pam Bondi as well. I want to talk to you.
So, you know, they're talking to witnesses about Pam Bondi, and I can only imagine how the Democrats are receiving this, not enjoying hearing positive stuff about her. They want everything to be negative because, again, they don't want people that's going to work for President Trump that's going to follow orders. That's what it really comes down to. When President Trump gives a directive, he is expecting people to do their jobs. Well, of course, the Democrats don't want they want them to all to say no to President Trump. President Trump says, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that. And they want no to be the answer to him. So then that way, what end up happening is that President Trump will have to fire the people that's not doing their jobs. And I'm you know what, I'm going to go on a limb here. And I'm going to say that is going to happen at some point. That's going to happen at some point in his, you know, I would say, I'm going to go ahead and say within the first 100 days that President Trump is going to end up firing somebody because they're not doing their jobs, right? Because he's not going to play around this time. So he needs people that's going to come in, do his agenda, get the country back on track, and go. So I don't know who that person's going to be, right? I don't know who it's going to be. It might be someone with like, oh, I didn't think that he would fire this person. But if this person, whoever it may be, come in and they're not doing their jobs, he's going to fire them. This time around, he knows the lay of the land. And it's going to be game on.
You know, and how refreshing is it that they say she's going to be transparent? Because it has been hard. They've been fighting tooth and nail for Garland to be transparent, and Christopher Wray and Mayorkas. Like, there's been no transparency in this administration. So it's great to hear that from people that work with Pam Bondi. And I like this part of the hearing mainly because they get to focus on Pam Bondi. You know, yesterday they tried to deflect everything to Trump. Well, here we get to hear about how Pam Bondi is through through the eyes of people that have worked with her. And it seems like these people have great positions and great respect for her. And they're excited for her to be in this position, which gets me even more excited for her to be in this position.
Yeah, same here. I'm really excited to see it take place. And again, just like I mentioned, he's going to say, you're fired. You're fired. because you didn't do the job. And let me say this too, because, you know, all of the Democrats on Capitol Hill, they've all been saying, like, are you going to go after so-and-so? Are you going to get so-and-so? And Pam Bondi kept saying, look, I haven't been given any orders to go after anybody, but President Trump's going to have to get them, because if he doesn't, they're going to do it again in the future. They're going to do it again in the future. Okay, let's go back to the hearing.
Greatly appreciate your testimony. Ms. McCord, you testified, thank you for all your good work over the years. You testified before the committee last September on the repercussions of Trump versus the United States, the case on presidential immunity. You wrote, I think in your written testimony, there's nothing stopping a president from directing the investigation of his political enemies, journalists, or activists, even where there is no basis for doing so. As you will recall from the hearing yesterday, I asked Ms. Bondi a number of questions about what her intentions were, how she would respond if the president asked her to investigate someone, whether she thought there was a factual predicate for a case, for example, an investigation against Jack Smith or Liz Cheney. For the most part, she refused to answer any specific question, didn't give me a lot of confidence in her willingness to push back against those kind of improper orders from the president. What should the Attorney General do if a president is now, by virtue of this dangerous Supreme Court decision, immune from prosecution from violating the law and using the Department of Justice to do it? It doesn't mean the Attorney General should go along with it. What should the Attorney General do if the president says, I want you to investigate such and such political opponent?
Then they need to investigate.
Well, first of all, I would say the immunity decision right now, as far as we know, applies only to the president. And so there's no immunity for Attorney General Bondi if she were to engage in illegal activity or unconstitutional activity in carrying out a directive of Donald Trump. But I think before we even get to that, it would be important for her to make clear that she is not going to direct her department attorneys or the FBI to initiate unfounded investigations.
Hold on, real quick.
As departments of justice throughout all of my tenure there.
I got to say this really quick. If President Trump is asking them to do an investigation, this because something went awry, because some criminal activity took place. And Adam Schiff is saying that if President Trump is asking Pam Bondi to do an investigation into what Liz Cheney did, into what Adam Kissinger did, what Nancy Pelosi did, what all of these corrupt criminals have done, then he has every right to tell them to do an investigation. It's not against the law. They've been investigating President Trump since when? Since he came down the escalator. Remember the whole dossier. You remember the FISA courts. So they don't have any room. Adam Schiff is guilty as well. Go back to it.
Wait, I just want to say something. And how dare Adam Schiff ask these people who have been subordinates to Pam Bondi, say, what should she do? They have no authority over her. And you're speaking in speculation once again. This is what Shifty Schiff has been doing. Once again, like Pam Bondi said yesterday, this is why he was censored. Because he threads these very dangerous narratives and plants them in the people's minds.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing the name right, but I just happened to look on pilled.net, and Hemelo, am I saying it right, said they are scared of Pam. You know what? That's what it really comes down to. They're scared that she's actually going to do the job that President Trump is putting her in place to do. That's what they're scared of. They want someone like Jeff Sessions or Attorney General Barr to say that they're going to be tough and don't do anything. Let's go back.
Always we followed the facts and the law and did not target any person for investigation based on political reasons. So it's really, that's why the independence is so much more important even now in the wake of that decision, because she is the first person to have a position of standing up to the president.
I also asked Ms. Bondi whether she would commit to preserving the evidence that was gathered as a part of the January 6th investigation by the department.
Oh, my goodness. Like you
she
did.
Refused to commit to even preserving the evidence. Are there laws in place, or is it merely department policy not to destroy evidence?
I wonder if
Should
they're
we
going to
have any
blame Trump
confidence
for the 1.5
that evidence
terabyte
will be
missing.
preserved?
You know, I wonder if they're going to blame Trump for the 1.5 terabyte of data missing when it comes to that. I wonder, are they going to blame Trump for that? See, a lot of people don't know that they deleted that data.
Yeah, they sure did. In fact, Benny Johnson even admitted. He said, well, we
Yes.
didn't think we needed to keep all of it.
Yes.
But here's the thing. They only kept the stuff that was incriminating towards these people. They didn't keep all the hours and hours of peaceful protesting and the whole picture. They only kept things
They
that
only
were
kept the
bad
production
for these
part.
people. That's absolutely
The production part. Let's go
Right.
back to Pencil Neck.
Well, there certainly are Federal Records Act obligations that require that records be maintained. And so I think that she would be well advised to consult with attorneys, career attorneys who specialize in the Department of Justice, and be guided by their counsel. And it's certainly important in this case, as in these cases, as in every case prosecuted by the Department of Justice or investigated, to maintain records.
And if I could ask both you and Ms. Gilbert, recusal question. So, Ms. McCord, maybe let me ask you about where you think the circumstance would be appropriate for her to recuse herself vis-a-vis her prior representation of the president. And Ms. Gilbert, in terms of her corporate clients as a lobbyist, when would it be appropriate for her to recuse herself from working on or influencing department decisions vis-a-vis her former lobbyist clients?
Senator Schiff, I think with respect to her previous, personal representation of Donald Trump, she needs to be very concerned, as William French Smith was when he took on this job for President Reagan, having been Reagan's personal attorney, that anything that would appear to be improper, that would show impartiality, she should recuse from. So, for example, investigations into anyone who was involved in the first impeachment proceedings or prosecution, because she defended Donald Trump in those proceedings. Even any investigations or prosecutions into those involved with the cases against Donald Trump, because she has made public statements about prosecutors and investigators needing to be targeted potentially. She's used the term the bad ones. I'm not sure what that means in legal parlance.
Oh,
so I
my
think these are the
goodness.
types
How
of
are you
matters,
kidding me?
including also civil matters. There is Donald Trump has, through his attorneys, filed notice of a civil action against the Department of Justice based on the search of Mar-a-Lago. Clearly, it would be improper for her to take any part in that in responding to that case.
Thank you. And I just would like to note that obviously yesterday she clarified that she'd never represented President Trump in a personal matter, but actually worked there directly with the White House. Also, it's interesting because we have seen this body confirm members who have lobbied for the Chinese Communist Party and confirm them to positions at ODNI. And it didn't seem that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle had an issue with that. And it's also interesting that we continue to hear General Sessions being brought up at these hearings over and over again. I do want to remind people, obviously, he is from the great state of Alabama, but not one member of the Democratic Party in this actual hearing voted for him through his confirmation process. So I just want to make sure that we set the record straight on that as well. But thank you to all of our witnesses.
I know I'm out of time.
Yes.
Would it be possible for the other witness to answer? She didn't have an opportunity because the clock ran out.
I think we are out of time, but I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you to our witnesses for testifying today. I know that some of you traveled long and hard to be here, and we are grateful that you did that. The record will stay open until 5 p.m. tonight, and so if you would like to add something to that, you are more than welcome to.
So there it is. So, you can have Adam Schiff trying to get in a last word, because she actually set the record straight. And of course, Adam Schiff, he doesn't want to leave it at that, because he wants what he was saying, his agenda, to be pushed. Again, this is the problem right now. This is the problem that the country is facing right now, is the fact that Adam Schiff and the Democrats, they've been going after President Trump. Let me remind everybody that's watching right now, there was 4 indictments against President Trump. You remember? Because they were saying the more you indict, the more we unite. 4 indictments. They raided President Trump's home not once, but twice. Come to find out, those documents that were laid out on the floor, some of them were saying highly classified, or they would say top secret, and the vanilla folders right there. Come to find out that Jack Smith actually planted those for the photo op. Jack Smith put those there for the photo op. And who appointed Jack Smith? Special counsel. Because to my understanding, unless it's changed and I'm not aware of it, if you're going to be on special counsel, you have to go through the process of a hearing like they're going through right now for President Trump's cabinet pick. You have to go through that to see if the person is qualified to be on the special counsel. Did that ever happen with Jack Smith? Come to find out, it never did happen. According to the reports that's been relayed, it's never happened. But yet Jack Smith has been put in this position by Merrick Garland and the Democrats to go after President Trump. And Merrick Garland's actually gone after other people in the past. I've actually interviewed people where Jack Smith purposely were targeting people that were against the Democrats. Because one gentleman, he actually called up article impeachments against Obama when Obama was in office. And all of a sudden, Jack Smith was going after this young man and ended up putting this young man in jail over fraudulent stuff. So they've been doing this for a long time. And now they're questioning, are you going to actually go look at Jack Smith? Are you going to actually investigate Jack Smith? Even the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was asking, how did he get in this position? They were asking that question too. Everyone should be asking that question. How did he get in this position? But of course, they don't want to talk about that because they just wanted someone to go after a henchman, to go after President Trump. And then on top of that, so you had the raid on Mar-a-Lago twice, not once, but twice, the documents that were laid out. All of a sudden, we got this picture. And who leaked that document picture, right? Who leaked that picture, right? Because they wanted the public opinion. This is before the election. They wanted that public opinion to go to the people so they would say, oh, my goodness, look what President Trump did. And for a lot of people that didn't know this, every single president that leaves the White House, they have up to 5 years. Because when President Trump left the White House the first time, President Trump didn't box up nothing. He didn't pick up a single item and box it. Nothing. They had people come in, a crew come in, and they boxed everything that was in his office. Papers, books, what have you, pens, whatever. They boxed up everything that he had that was his personal or that was pertaining to him. They boxed it all, put it on a truck, and shipped it down to Mar-a-Lago. He has up to 5 years to turn over whatever to the archives. That gives the president, when he leaves office, time to go through the boxes because they have busy lives. They do speaking engagements. They have stuff they're going to do. They know all of this is happening afterwards. So they have up to 5 years, but they conveniently leave that information out, and they still proceeded with this case to go after President Trump. But for some reason, the government state media, they don't relay that information to anybody. They just kept saying, oh, my goodness, he had these documents, these classified documents, and he was trying to give them over to Putin, which is BS. Of course, they're all speculating. And that's what the Democrats constantly do. They speculate on everything. And then they tried to remove President Trump from the ballots. Y'all remember that? See, and then they had, I think it was end up being 10 states they were trying to remove him from? Something like that. I know Colorado, I think Maine. I know there was a few other states. I can't remember. It might not have been 10. Don't hold me to it. But nonetheless, they were trying to say that he was not qualified to be on the ballot before the election. I mean, come on, people. Come on. And then they had all of these civil suits against President Trump. And then let's not forget about Atlanta. Remember what happened in Atlanta with Fonnie Willis? What happened with her? They were going after President Trump there as well. They in Florida are trying to go after President Trump because of Mar-a-Lago. And even in New York, going after President Trump. And of course, they got President Trump because, it's, again, like they had the votes. And they said now he's a convicted felon because they went ahead and went through it just so they can say that he's a convicted felon. That's the only reason why they did that. So they can turn around and say that he's a convicted felon, 34 counts. No one ever in the history of America has ever been tried for what they tried President Trump for. No one. But they did it to try to stop him. And it didn't work. They failed. Okay, we're going to go back to some hearing. Was it a Treasury Secretary?
Yeah, this is Scott Bessent, the Treasury nominee.
Okay, cool. Let's go to it.
Is not a solution to our problems in healthcare or other parts of our economy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bessent, welcome. Thank you for your willingness to serve. I want to just start by refuting one of the false narratives we hear ad nauseum from the other side, that the Tax Cut and Jobs Act was the primary cause of our deficits. It's just not true. So I'm going to actually use the facts from CBO. Again, this isn't to confirm CBO numbers. This actually shows you why we ought to take CBO projections with a grain of salt. After its passage, CBO projected 10 years, but I mean, for 7 years that we just experienced, total revenue of $27 trillion. Actual revenue was $28.7 trillion. That's, to do the math, that's $1.7 trillion more than what CBO estimated, which shows that the original score was $1.5 trillion lost revenue. So we not only paid for the tax cut, in 7 years, we generated $200 billion more revenue, even with the COVID recession. So again, we need to take CBO scores with a real grain of salt. But I hope this committee understands what Senator Graham was talking about in terms of your humble beginnings and your tremendous American success story. And so I want to ask you a hypothetical, because you understand American families. If an American family, let's say they normally spend $100,000, have a serious health crisis. And so in 1 year, they have to spend $50,000 on medical bills. But then, fortunately, that family member gets well. What would that family spend the next year? Real quick.
Unless they have more income, they'd spend
probably $100,000.
They'd spend the same 100 and probably have debt costs associated with that.
Right. They certainly wouldn't do what the federal government has done. In 2019, before the pandemic, we spent $4.4 trillion. In 2020, we spent $6.6 trillion. Now, when the pandemic ended, we didn't really reduce spending. For the last 5 years, we've averaged $6.5 trillion. Last year, spending $6.9 trillion. Mr. Bessent, is there any justification for keeping spending levels at this level?
Senator Johnson, as I've said repeatedly, the United States does not have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem.
So the question is, how do we reset spending levels to a reasonable pre-pandemic level? I wrote a column in the Wall Street Journal. I laid out a couple scenarios, and let me just give you the guts of it. If you take one of the pre-pandemic years and increase all the spending by population and inflation, by the way, that's what families would do as well. But you exempt Social Security, Medicare, and interest, and use President Biden's 2025 budget, because you spend what we plan on spending this year. If you take Bill Clinton's 1998 spending, I don't think he spent too little back in 1998, we would be having a baseline of $5.5 trillion. If you took President Obama's 2014 spending levels, it'd be $6.2 trillion. The one I like the best, though, is if we use President Trump's 2021 budget, his estimates for spending in 2025, and use, again, just use those numbers, but slot in Social Security, Medicare, and interest as they are. Nobody's touching those. We'd be spending about $6 trillion. So wouldn't that be a reasonable level? Somewhere between $5.5 and $6 trillion as a baseline spending to project our next 10 years.
Senator, I look forward to working with you on this, that you've clearly done more work than I have. And this looks like a very good starting point to me to figure out how we've gotten into this spending morass.
So it sounds like pretty reasonable approach to me. By the way, I'd take 1998. I'd use Clinton's spending levels for this. I also want to refute this current CBO score on extending the TCJA. Back then, they scored the whole thing as $1.5 trillion. If you just inflate that the same way according to CPI, it'd be $2 trillion. How do they justify a score of $4.3 to $4.6 trillion? It makes no sense. So again, I think we need to take those estimates with a huge grain of salt. My final point, I heard the ranking member talk about inflation, the cost of living. Because we've incurred these massive deficits, a 1998 dollar today is only worth 51 cents. A 2014 dollar today is only worth 74 cents. A 2019 dollar is only worth 80 cents. That was caused by this massive deficit spending, the devaluation of the dollar, and a lot of devaluations occurred over the last 4 years because we spent too much money. Not because we didn't tax America enough. It's because we spent way too much money. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Cantwell.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bessent, congratulations on your nomination. And I see your family sitting there in earnest on these economic issues. It's so interesting. Our perspectives, you can see from this committee, are arguing about what we think are the right economic policies for the country. And as the Treasury nominee, with your background and experience, we still are talking about the president's policies and whether we think they're effective or not. Real GDP has increased at an annual rate of 3.1% in the third quarter of 2024. That's strong growth, right?
As an aggregate number, it's strong growth.
Okay. The economy added 16 million jobs over the last 4 years. An average unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in 50 years. So that's led to better pay and working conditions. We want that, right?
I'm in favor of better pay and working conditions.
Okay.
Yes, Senator.
And after-tax income increased by 400%. So these are good economic news. And I personally think that focusing on innovation and building supply chains is a good thing to do. And so when you start talking about tariffs, that's when you get, the Pacific Northwest attention. In fact, I would say a recent editorial by one of my newspapers was, bracing for the Trump tariffs, aviation in general. You can imagine we actually have an actual net surplus. I think we export about $2 billion worth of goods out of our state versus importing $1 billion. But this is a big part of it. And so in the aviation sector, I think I sent you an article about the fact that we think increasing our manufacturing innovation to continue to have markets and sell to those markets is a good economic strategy.
Senator Cantwell, as I discussed in your office, that in my hometown of Charleston, South Carolina, Boeing is also the largest employer. So I view aviation as very important.
Great. So now I want to, and believe me, I would have the same conversation with Joe Biden or Barack Obama or whoever. So I want to focus on innovation, not the tariffs. I'm worried that the tariffs are going to increase supply chain products. They're going to increase prices on our farmers. They're going to increase prices on Americans. And so I want to ask you,
Can you pause it?
Don't you think we are in an environment where
I want to
exporting products and growing market?
Really quick. So, she says she's concerned that it's going to raise the prices on the farmers and other goods and services even. They act as if tariffs are not in place already. Y'all notice that? They're acting like tariffs are a new thing and tariffs are something that President Trump is just wanting to do. Tariffs have been there all this time. And this I just learned this not too long ago, that China, and I believe it's even Japan, right? No, it's Japan. Every time we send something to Japan, there is 100% tariffs on it. Did you know that? And guess who pays it? We do. We pay that. The United States of America pays it. And the reason why we pay it is because of World War II. We agreed that to help them rebuild their nation, we would allow 100% tariffs on anything that we send to their nation. And it's been like that ever since. President Trump is saying we need to undo that. And if you're not going to undo it, then we're going to apply the same thing. We got to stop building other nations. We need to build America. And that's what the part that they conveniently leave out. They conveniently leave that out all the time. Let's go.
It's outside the United States is a big economic opportunity. And what are you going to do to build coalitions to help us be able to achieve opening up those markets as opposed to just the retaliatory tariff environment, which may raise costs on Americans and not resolve these issues?
So, Senator Cantwell, thank you for that. And after our discussion in your office, I actually went back and looked at some older data. In 2000, in terms of the labor share of aggregate income in the U.S., 69% accrued to labor. Today, that number is 60, and you could see a sharp drop after what is called the China shock. So I agree with you that opening markets is good, but the free trade must be also balanced against fair trade. And clearly what has happened is the trade has not been fair. That has fallen on the American workers. And we cannot allow, as I think I mentioned to you, China is the most unbalanced economy in the history of the world. They are in a severe recession/depression. They may have -4% disinflation, and they are attempting to export their way out of that as opposed to doing the much needed internal rebalance. Yep. So, I am with you on the need to open markets, but we cannot allow a player like this to flood our markets or to flood the world.
Well, but I'm saying I believe in coalitions. We just discussed a technology, NATO. I think you thought that was a good idea. The notion, though, I mean, I can get upset with my colleagues on the other aisle all the time and object, but that doesn't move me forward. And so I hope that you will look at what we're going to do to build allies. I mean, these numbers that basically are talking about just the tariff and what it would do to the price of gasoline given Canada is concerning. And so I want to know that the Trump administration is going to focus as much on innovating our way to success as we are on the tariffs, because I do think we're going to see retaliatory tariffs. We saw them in our state. It hurt us in our agriculture.
Maybe we should make Canada part of the United
what
States
happened
of America.
is that you lose more farms. I mean, there's a lot of people buying farmland. Goldman Sachs,
China,
Bill Gates. There's a lot of people buying farmland. But we're losing farmers in the middle of the trade wars, and that's a concern I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, oh, by the way, thank you so much for mentioning housing. I so appreciate that was in your statement.
President Trump
I look
hasn't
forward
done
to working
anything
with
yet,
you.
and
I do
are they
think that's an
blaming
area,
President
if the
Trump
president will
for
push
losing
forward,
farmers?
that it is a way
Make it
for
make
us to lower
sense.
costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to be with you. Mr. Bessent, thank you and your family for being with us today. I very much appreciated the conversation we had in the office. Now, I'm going to touch on several topics, so I'm going to ask you some yes or no questions, and I thank you in advance for your brevity. It may surprise many observing today the immense responsibility that the Secretary of Treasury has in stemming the flow of fentanyl and other substances. Now, yes or no, will you commit to continuing the Biden administration's counter-fentanyl strike force, which brought together the Office of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence and IRS criminal investigation to fight financial crime?
Thank you, Senator. I enjoyed our visit. And as I mentioned in your office, this is personal for me as two families who are close to our family lost children to the fentanyl crisis. So I will commit and know that it is my belief that President Trump is laser focused on this issue.
Mr. Bennett, yes or no, will you work with me to ensure that there's more transparency over suspicious activity reports, SARS, at the Financial Crimes Network for Congress?
I believe, as you and I discussed, There is a sleeve of Treasury called TFI, Terrorism Finance, that deals with this within FinCEN, and I believe that I believe that we have to have a 2025 approach to, as you and I talked about, digital currencies and all branches of government. So, yes.
Now, Mr. Bessent, in your role as Treasury Secretary, do you agree that you will play an important role in advising President Trump and congressional Republicans on policy related to the economy, including investment in government programs?
Yes, Senator.
Now, I was pleased in our meeting that you stated, quote, "No cuts will be needed," unquote, to achieve your economic goals. I think that might surprise a lot of my Republican colleagues, but I very much appreciate that conversation that we had. Now, yes or no, will you recommend cutting Medicaid?
I'm sorry. Did you say, I didn't hear whether you said Medicaid or Medicare.
Yes or no, will you recommend cutting Medicaid?
Medicaid? That I will, it's the business of Congress to do the budget, and I am in favor of empowering states, and I believe that for some states that will be an increase, for some states that will be a decrease.
So, Mr. Bessent, will you recommend cutting Medicaid to President Trump? And I'll remind you that you acknowledge that one of your responsibilities as Secretary of the Treasury will be to be providing this advice.
I will get back to you on this when I have seen the details
I think
of the full budget proposal
the Democrat
once
in
President
this case
Trump is in office.
and
And
cutting
if
Medicaid to people that shouldn't be in the country in the first place, right? Because most people that work, you pay into Medicaid. You pay Medicaid, right? When you get your pay stub, right? You see the little thing on your pay stub, Medicaid. So most people pay into it. But in this case, the Democrats are afraid that it's going to get cut to people that's never earned it, to people that's just, kind of like walked into the country per se. You know what I'm talking about? That's what they're concerned about. And he's kind of like not saying no, and he's not saying yes. He's saying based on the state, let the state decide, which, hey, let the states decide, meaning that you, the voter in the state, you get to decide as the voter. Let's go back.
Confirmed.
Will you recommend cuts to broadband following the investments that we've been seeing across the country, making immense progress in connecting more people across the country that were included in the bipartisan infrastructure law?
The Senator, I am unfamiliar with the exact program. It is my understanding that much of the allocated funding has not been dispersed yet. So I will get back to you on that.
Well, Mr. Bessent, a lot of folks back in South Carolina, including some of your farming neighbors, are getting connectivity because of these programs. You may just need to chat with them about the importance of what this program means. As my time expires, it might surprise many here that there's only a couple of us in this body that are members of Head Start, and I imagine we might hear a little bit more of that from my brother in Head Start, Mr. Warnock here. But when we talk about the importance to early education in America, the economic benefit, yes or no, will you recommend cuts to Head Start?
Yeah. Again, Senator, I'll have to get back to you on this. I don't understand the intricacies of that program.
Of Head Start?
Yes, I don't understand the budget ramifications. I don't understand.
Do you know what Head Start is?
Yep, I believe it's an earlier childhood education program.
That's fair, sir. I didn't realize that you had to qualify to get into that program. So the family that I was raised in, we qualified to get into that program. But it opens up doors. I mean, heck, it got a couple of us to the United States Senate. So certainly hope that we might be able to find some agreement in protecting that program. And if someone tries to eliminate that in early childhood education, that we could count on you on behalf of New Mexicans, South Carolinians, and people across America to say, no, we're not going to do that one. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the time today. Appreciate you being here again, sir.
Thank you. Senator Barrasso.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks so much for your willingness to serve. Thanks for being here. Enjoyed our discussion quite a bit and talking about the future for the country and the role of the Treasury Secretary.
So, again, the Democrats are very conniving. You can take it off the screen. They're very conniving. They always leave out the key details. We see it happen all the time. Like I just mentioned, they're wanting to make sure that free benefits to people that are not American citizens continue to receive these free benefits. This is their objective, but they conveniently leave that detail out because no one in their right mind, all of the people that are watching this for today, all of the people that are watching this, none of them are going to go, why are you giving them free medical care? Why are you giving them free benefits? Why are you giving them these EBT cards? Why are you giving them credit cards? Why are you giving them access to stuff that the rest of us have been here working and sweating and bleeding to try to survive? But you just hand it all to them. They don't want to talk about it in that manner, right? They want to leave it out because then people like you and I will say, and not even just you and I, even the blue heart Democrats, they will all go, that's not right. That's not right, because there's a lot of blue heart Democrats right now that are in pain, that are suffering. Yeah, look no further than California. California is still on fire, right? It's still on fire. And Gavin Newsom, really quick, Shannon, go ahead, say what you want to say. Then I'm going to say this about Newsom.
About the Head Start program. So, as that senator was talking about it, he said, that he was a part of it. Well, when Head Start started, it started under Lyndon Johnson. It was literally an 8-week summer program. So when he was young, that's probably what it was. It is now grown to be a full child. It's full day, full year services for anybody that's has disadvantages. So it's turned into a monster versus when he was a child.
Kind of sound like you're talking about the government. It's turned into a monster.
Right.
Because, most Republicans, conservatives, they want limited government. They want the people to be able to make the decisions for themselves, which is the way it's supposed to be, the way it's intended.
Yeah, which actually, I'd like to look at that too. But, I hate to say, well, I don't hate to say it, but we didn't start out very, rich either. And so, my children actually participated.
Are you rich now?
In Head Start programs during the summer.
And you're rich now?
When
you're
I
rich
had
now?
To work. Yeah.
You're rich.
I'm not
Dude,
rich now.
I mean, can you share the wealth? Because I'm broke.
But I'm just saying, at the time when my children were young, I income qualified to be part of Head Start as well. But it was a summer program. It was a summer because I had to work. And a lot of times, some of our daycare, when children grow up, they can't go to daycare anymore. They have to go to these summer programs. And so I got to take part of a summer program for our children. But yeah, now it's just too much. And like you said, Will, it's not just to hardworking Americans. It's to these people that aren't contributing to our society, right? They're not full-time workers. I mean, now it's blown up to be something that, I'm glad he said he's going to look at it. He's going to look at the advantages and disadvantages, because if we're going to have it, I think we should at least ramp it back down to what it used to be.
Yeah. I think this is something that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will be working hand in hand, or hand in glove per se, when it comes to the Treasury. Because we've got to fix this. We've got to fix this. If we want the country to, to be great and to remain great and to become great again, they're going to have to do something about the Treasury. We don't have a choice. I mean, it's been spending too much, entirely too much. And they've been spending them on programs that don't even benefit the American people. They're on these special interest programs that are meaningless. And, half of them, you don't even like, what is that? I mean, you've heard the stories about when they had the little shrimp on the treadmill in the water. I'm like, really? They're spending millions of dollars on stuff like that. And let me say this too. Elon Musk He showed up in California, and this is what I'm saying when I was talking about the Blue Heart Democrats. They're not happy with the Democrats as well, and a lot of them had a rude wake up call in California when the fires broke out. Elon Musk went to California because, you know, the communication's down. A lot of people don't have any way to communicate with their loved ones, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Elon Musk went there. He went to the command center at the fire department, and he was asking them questions. And of course, he put those videos on X. And Gavin Newsom, being the tool that he is, Gavin Newsom made a phone call and said, do not allow Elon Musk in there. Remove him from the vicinity. Kick him out. And on top of that, as I just mentioned, countless people unable to communicate with their loved ones from California. Elon Musk brought in Starlink so people could have, he donated Starlink so people could communicate with their loved ones. Donated them. Not even asking for a dime for him. Guess what Gavin Newsom said? Gavin Newsom said, kick him out of the control center, and anything that he has donated, return it. So all of the people that want to communicate with their loved ones, that need to be able to communicate, thanks to Gavin Newsom, that has gone out the window. And at first when I heard this story, I'm like, okay, let me wait until some more information about this come out. And allegedly, let me say that, allegedly, Gavin Newsom, or New Scum, kicked out Elon Musk, and he rejected, he said, return all of the Starlink. I mean, really, can you not set your pettiness to a side for just a month?
Yeah,
can you not set it to a side?
Even more than that, it wasn't just people not being able to contact their loved ones. It was emergency services were using it. So now when you take it away from emergency services, imagine what's going to happen. I mean, they don't ever think about the consequences of their decisions. Nope. Very, very typical. The fires are actually an example.
Elon Musk is just Gavin Newsom. He's just upset with Elon Musk because Elon Musk sided with America. And he sided with President Trump. And Elon Musk, he's bringing Starlink to California. What does he have to gain by doing that?
Yeah, and
more people liking him. I mean, really, it's hey, you need to communicate here.
Right.
And you're right, Shannon. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're absolutely right. The first responders using Starlink too, so now they can't even use it. I mean,
they asked for it.
Come on.
And the funny thing is
no wonder they don't have any water.
Gavin Newsom,
because they were asking for water.
Gavin Newsom is bragging about working with Mexico and then bringing up firefighters.
And Canada.
And he's bragging about Ukraine sending firefighters, right? But oh no, we can't have Elon Musk help us with Starlink. Get over yourself. Get over your pride. What is it that Rappaport said? Gavin with good hair.
Yeah, Gavin with good hair. Yeah, because they're trying to Trump-proof California instead of trying to fireproof California. And that's another one from Rappaport. I mean, really. I mean, and I'm like, you know what? That's exactly what it is. Y'all have heard about that, right? $50 million to try to Trump-proof California. Y'all haven't heard about that? Go Google it. Go Google it. Gavin Newsom, the Democrats in the state of California, moved to Trump-proof California. You just put California, not California, but that's what they're trying to do. Instead of $50 million to remove brush. I mean, really? They're spending time trying to Trump-proof California instead of fireproofing it. All right, everybody, that's it for me. Hey, do me a favor. Please go to my website, uniteamericafirst.com. Support me. I need your support. Like I said, I just got my YouTube channel back. I'm thankful to have my YouTube channel back. I'm live on YouTube right now, and Facebook has completely demonetized my Facebook page. So the only way I get any support is by you. I am 100%, and I mean that, 100% viewer supported. So unless you support me, I can't do this. So I'm asking you, please bless me by going to my website, uniteamericafirst.com, or you can see it down there in the lower third, right down there. You see, here's Trump. Believe me. Right there below where it says live, down below the .com is a short link to uniteamericafirst.com, uaf.media. Please bless me. I need your help. I need your support. All right, everybody. I got my next show. I'm doing a Culture Wars on LFA TV coming up in 1 hour. Make sure you tune in. And when you go to uniteamericafirst.com, you'll see it right there on the front page. Just scroll down a little bit and you will see it. Set a mobile alert on your phone. 11 o'clock Central, Monday through Friday, right here. Will Johnson Show. God bless.